Okay.
Good morning. My earlier podcast was right here in Kennesaw. Now we're venturing down into Florida. Now, if you can look behind Kristina's or her backdrop, that's not
That's not a backdrop.
that isn't a screen. What do you call those backdrops? It's not a green screen that she
Nope.
put up. That's an actual picture. So you get an idea of being down in Florida has some advantages. So Kristina, tell our viewers like who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into the podcast.
All right. So I'm just going to consolidate 50 some years into a couple minutes.
Yes.
So I started out as a COBOL programmer and kind of made my way, through the programming circuit working for the state of Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And then got into web development. When I went to school, didn't have the web, didn't really have internet. We had bulletin boards. So the really, the structure I had in school doesn't really always set you up for where you end up.
Yep.
So then I went off on my own. I started Cobb Social Media, which may have been where we met. I don't know.
Yeah,
it was
I think it was.
It was a meetup group. Yeah.
Yep.
And then I started East Cobb Business Hour, where I interviewed East Cobb businesses for a little bit. I'm not as consistent as you are. It's a difficult thing to do, podcasting, I think. You have to be consistent. Then I moved into like senior living, Thrive Senior Living in marketing. I've managed their 23 websites for each of the individual communities. And then, on and on, I decided I want to be more of a project manager. I love organization. I love getting all that stuff together. So my husband and I hit like 50 something and we're like, are we ready for retirement? Can we handle retirement? So we went through the numbers. We're both spreadsheet people.
Mm-hmm.
So we have everything listed out. I'm like, I think we can do this. So my husband graduated, retired a year before I did. I retired in 22 at 50 something, mid 50s. And I wanted to go into the health industry because I'd been on the health circuit, teaching people about ingredients, how to read ingredients and stuff like that. And I was going to start my own business, Healthy Diabetes Management, which I have a Facebook page for that. It's difficult to sustain yourself on that. So I joined Optavia, which it used to be called Take Shape for Life or MetaFast, and because they had all this information already created for me. I didn't have to create it. So I really became interested in becoming healthy. And funny, not until like 40 something. I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes when our daughter was born. I was 29, 30 years old. And, at that age, you're still invincible. So I'm like, I just won't eat, 2 helpings of bread. And then it wasn't until I was about 45 that I got a personal trainer. And one of the husband-wife group is also an ND, doctor of naturopathy. So every workout, I'd pick his brain. And I learned more and more and more about nutrition. So it's not about taking more insulin the more you eat. It's about putting the right foods in your body.
Yep.
So I'm really a health advocate right now. And my target audience of people I want to help are, women over 50 that are struggling with pre-diabetes or diabetes, and giving them healthy tips, because you can't just change your life like that.
Yeah, no. No, it's a strategy. And I know I've had a couple people on my podcast. They own franchises from Clean Eats, and most of their customers are gym people. And gym people always have a mindset of, if I'm going to be in the gym, I also have to fuel myself right. So they've always been kind of dialed into the nutritional part of it. Actually, the owners or the founders were out of Wilmington, or still out of Wilmington, North Carolina, and they were gym people. And they always made their foods, and nothing was out there that had the balance of how they fueled. So when you discovered that you had diabetes and you're picking the brain, so what was that journey like? Were you just kind of picking up little tips on how to make some changes in your life?
Yeah. So, when the gym life is pretty social. What's interesting, it's not as social now as it was before in my mind. The larger gyms, everyone has their earphones in. You really don't communicate a lot. But I had joined a CrossFit for a few years in my probably late 40s, and it was smaller, and everyone would talk between sets. Like, hey, have you gotten into sprouting? I'm like, what's sprouting? Hey, have you gotten into this? Have you tried juicing? Like, oh, no, I don't juice because I like the fiber from the fruits and vegetables and juicing. It's just like all these little things.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend, smaller groups and creating that gym pack, people you share information with. And so I learned you really shouldn't starve your body before you work out. Your body needs that energy. And there's good carbs and bad carbs. It's not like cutting out anything with a carbohydrate in it. It's about finding those that are low glycemic, that don't like spike your blood sugar. And it's all about, for anyone, you need to keep your blood sugar, fairly even. You don't want to go and then crash and then and crash. So diabetics have what's called an A1C, hemoglobin A1C test. And that basically tests your blood sugar levels over the past 3 months. Really, 50% of the test is your last month. And then, as you go back, it makes sense. It gets diluted, right? So healthy people are between 5 and 7 is kind of borderline, number 5 to number 7. And I just saw my numbers keep creeping up and creeping up. And that's really my marker for how I'm doing. And it's difficult when you're taking vacations. I know, tough life, right? But vacation.
Yeah. No, but you always got to think about how you fuel yourself.
Right. So my number's been going up. I've got thyroid issues I'm working on. And what's interesting, I've been through like 5 different endocrinologists in Atlanta. The first one I won't mention names. First one I had wouldn't let me go scuba diving. This was in my 40s. He wouldn't let me go scuba diving. He's like, how would I feel if you died? I'm like, I don't care. I'm healthy. My A1C is 7. I'm doing great. I'm younger than everyone in your office. So I found another one who had actually written a book on nutrition. And then I'm kind of timid. Let me give you that. I'm one of those people that thinks of things after the fact. So this other doctor I went to, I said, I'm on a healthy diet. I'd like to know more about diet and nutrition instead of just increasing my insulin and stuff like that. And he goes, well, read my book. And I read the book. And I was already following some of those things. And I said, well, I noticed you don't mention coconut oil, unrefined coconut oil. And he's like, didn't you read that article in the New York Times, how bad that is for you? And I'm like, I was done. I'm like, my doctor gets their news from the New York Times.
Yeah.
Don't you get it from the NIH? Don't you get it from your things that you read? So I was put off by that, and I didn't tell him why I left him. And then, I've got another long story about my new endocrinologist down here, but I won't mention that just yet. But I did want to talk about my mom, who's been my inspiration. She's 80 right now. And, she will be this year. I'm going to do a big party for her. She's been diabetic since she was 15, 16 years old.
Wow.
She grew up in Sweden. She said she had to boil her stainless steel syringes. So, the tip was probably more like this,
Yeah.
and, give it to yourself in the stomach or in the thigh.
Yeah.
And she's been an inspiration because she doesn't drink. She doesn't overeat. She eats a couple times a day. Her blood sugar, her A1C is still fairly high. It happens as you get older, hormones change and stuff. But she's been a real inspiration to me in that she's managed it so long. And a lot of us diabetics will go into this self-loathing stage of, why can't I handle this? I'm eating this right. I'm eating that right. Why is this happening? Why me? Why me? Until you realize, you've got this lot in life. You've got to take care of yourself. Nothing's given to you. So I'm actually type 2 diabetic, which has changed over the years. I always thought type 2 people were overweight and could get rid of it. No, type 2 is insulin resistant. So if I if I feed myself with extra insulin, let's say I eat a lot, I'm like, oh, I'll just give myself some extra insulin. Insulin's a fat hormone. I will gain weight if I don't get those levels just right. I eat more insulin, gain weight, eat more insulin, gain weight. So what I have to do is just make sure they're even. And that's been, I don't know if I call it a struggle, a learning experience. How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'd like to hear your input on this. When I switched from Wellstar to a concierge doctor, it was Partner MD. And so I go to the health and fitness guy, and he's fit, he's got a PhD. And so he gives me 2 books. And one of the books was The Glucose Revolution.
Okay.
And it talked about eating vegetables first. And I was going like, never heard that before. Well, I started, I read the book, made sense. So I started making that adjustment. My energy level went like this. And I had never thought about that strategy. But the lady that wrote it, it was her own journey. She ended up, I think she jumped off a cliff, hit the bottom, paralyzed, had to.
Oh, literally.
Yeah, she was like, it was a life-changing, health issue. So she had to then start a different approach to her health because of just what she was dealing with. But it led her to do, she's not a doctor, but she's like a scientist or something like that. But she studied it, and she wrote the book, Glucose Revolution. So I always now, whenever I can, about at least 60% of the time, eat vegetables first, broccolis, guacamole, just things. And I tell you, my energy level is never been better. And I'm still not, I have to work on my sleep because once I wake up, my ADHD hits in and it's like, bingo, I got to get up and go.
That's why I do lists and I write things down.
Yeah, I know.
Otherwise,
you try
I'll
to
start
empty
doing
it out. And I've heard strategies. I haven't mastered that, but everything's a journey. Everything is figuring out, getting that knowledge. So with your journey and your mom being your inspiration, you took a different approach. You really started asking questions. You started inquiring about things that helped you to take responsibility of yourself, because ultimately that's what we have. Yeah. We can't take, just because a doctor reads an article in the New York Times doesn't make him a nutrition expert, And sometimes you say, oh, that doctor said this. Where's your source? Oh, I read it in the New York Times. Yeah. And it was, we have to go digging. It can't be one article and then we change everything, because you just don't know what the bias is in some information. You got to be aware. Yeah. So when you started, looking into your situation, what was the journey like? Were you, I mean, I've gone through 6 PTs, so I know what it is to fire doctors. So tell me when you were happy with the answers, what were you thinking? I got to keep checking this out.
So I find that I'm goal oriented. So one of the things I did, before I turned 50, I want to do the Tough Mudder. So I searched out a small gym, happened to be a CrossFit 1 mile away, where I can ride my bike there. And this CrossFit, I found out through an open house that the coach was also a runner. I'm like, okay, cool. It's probably going to be more running. So I questioned him about that. And then I'm like, oh, I'll only go once a week, maybe twice a week. It's addictive. When you get that endorphin high and you're working out and you're meeting people and you're getting that learning with communication with others, like connecting, right?
Yep.
So I was working out 5 days a week at 6 a.m. My husband's like, you're crazy. You're going to burn out. I'm like, but I feel so good and I look so good.
Yeah.
But to your question, I've always been the type of person to read a lot, and I'm a bit of a skeptic. So because of that, I will read multiple things. And I've noticed lately that a lot of these health professionals, their podcasts are about looking back at your own podcast. What have you changed your mind on? Like, for example, I watched this one health person who talked about, what's it called? What's that butter? Oh, I can't believe it's not butter was one of her recommendations. She's like, I can't believe I ever recommended that for health because it's oil based. So I think what's good is to always set goals, and your goals shouldn't be, all right, I want to lose weight. Your goal is, I want to be healthy. I want to get this biomarker to a certain level. And it's good to have that support around you too. And that's another reason I joined Optavia. I moved down to Florida probably in 2020. We had this during COVID, and there's lockdown. We're like, well, if we're working from home, we might as well work from Florida, right?
Yeah.
And it was just, it's kind of lonely moving here, especially during COVID. So I had a couple of things I did. I joined Optavia because you have that communication, you have that weekly meeting, and you have other people who are struggling. They're not perfect. And then I also had Pokemon Go. I don't know if you've heard of it, but Pokemon Go, I started doing Pokemon, when I worked.
You go to different places to find Pokemon. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. Yes.
So I'm like, I'm isolated. I can't go to a gym. I have weights. But what they have at Pokemon Go, they've got little eggs you can hatch. And if you walk 5 kilometers, that egg hatches. So my goal was to hatch an egg a day. So I made sure I did 5 kilometers a day. It's just a stupid little goal, right? 5 kilometers, 3 point something miles. And the actual reason I'd gotten into that is because I worked at a software company, and a lot of people there were younger. And I'm like, what are they doing? So I had to communicate. I'm twice their age. So that's my way of getting to know everyone and saying, hey guys, let's go hatch an egg. Let's go for a walk.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is so cool.
So I'm always thinking of these little goals that I could follow. And I like to use myself as an experiment. So back in January this year, my husband and I tried a plant-based diet. And it was kind of like, which means no processed foods, beans, which are high fiber, and no meats, no chickens. We do fish. And my husband's lost, 25 pounds maybe in 3 months.
Wow.
I didn't lose anything, and my biomarkers did not change. And I told that to my endocrinologist, and he said, he goes, my diabetics usually don't have success with that. But I need to do some more research on all my numbers to see what biomarkers did change. Like I only look at my A1C and my TSH for thyroid. So I think there's some other experiments I need to do to figure out, how to best do all this.
How did you moved to a different, you moved to Florida and you have all your doctors up here. How was it like connecting with all your doctors down there? What was that like?
Well, when I first moved down here, I was on United Healthcare, and I was able to use it down here at a local doctor that's on our island. We're on a little island where there's barrier islands out there, and then there's our island, and then a little spit of land, and then you get to Cape Coral, Florida. So we're not a barrier island, which has all the sandy beaches.
Right.
So it's kind of remote. We have one stop sign, 4-way stop sign in the middle of the 17-mile island.
Right.
So most people use the same doctor, the same dentist, the same everything, chiropractic. So United Healthcare was good. I found a woman who's a PA, and she and I totally connected. Okay, then I retire. So now I'm like, well, what do I do about health insurance? So, my husband had already retired, and I retired, and we had to go on Affordable Care Marketplace. So now I've got to change all my doctors. So I had to find new ones.
Yeah.
So, still being COVID, 22, we're kind of coming out of it. And then September 22, Hurricane Ian came right through here, demolished, a lot of the southern island where I am. I've got 2 empty lots on one side, another empty lot on the other side because they weren't high enough up, destroyed. So then I go another year without a any doctors. But what I found, teledocs. I do teledoc appointments now. Otherwise, I have to go up our island through the 20 mile an hour and then another, half hour. So it takes me 45 minutes to an hour to see my doctor. So I'm going to do a teledoc for my next one. I met him once, did the blood test at a Quest. There's Quest and LabCorp here. So, it was difficult finding a doctor. My husband's doctor was on island. He only does teledocs, but he had to go in for an appointment to get his blood pressure checked. My husband's like, I can test my blood sugar or my blood pressure right here. Why do I have to go in? So it's been a little frustrating and yet a learning experience. There's only certain pharmacies we can go to. We have Florida Blue Cross Blue Shield now. And somewhere in the documentation, it said that Publix was a pharmacy. I mean, it's not. So we've had a lot of rough patches of trying to figure out the system.
Right.
So when I was networking in East Cobb, I remember there were people who would help with medical and navigate. I totally understand that now. Because in my mind, I'm like, oh, I can just, sign up for something, boom, 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 done.
Yeah.
There's so much more.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard similar stories, and it's like a maze. And even because I'm older, but when I hit 65, before I hit 65, I was going to a PT after my stroke, and I was going 3 days a week. So that bill was like $30,000 for the month, and out of pocket was maybe $3,000 or something like that. Then when I hit 65, oh my gosh! I mean, I went to practically zero. So somebody's getting a bill for $30,000 after. I mean, I'm going, are you kidding me? Because I had no idea, and there were so many choices that you have to make with Medicare. It's not like I thought that my perception was it was like pretty much free. You just think you hear. I mean, it's going broke, so there's some problems in it. But there's so many there's so many choices you have to make. It depends on the medications. It depends on this. It depends on your treatments. I mean, it was like, holy mackerel, time out. It was like crazy.
And then you get the generics. It's like your doctor will prescribe something, and then I'm like, well, I can only do the generic of Lantus. Lantus is a long-lasting that I take once a day. And then this thing that I have, where is it? That's the Freestyle Libra Pro, so I can check my blood sugar from my phone.
My friend has a
reader.
Yeah.
So those are not covered, but I think I get a discount.
Yeah.
But each one lasts 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I spend about $30 to $40 per, so about $80 a month, which is reasonable. And what's great is I can test my blood sugar a million times a day and not, get the calluses on my fingers.
Not be pricked and stuff like that. Yeah. My friend does that. And it was like, he was like, man, it's great because he really keeps an eye on his markers. And, you don't, if you have to prick and go through all that, you don't do it as often. You just don't. Because I got to put my finger every hour. My finger is going to be so sore that.
And some people say, well, can't you just take metformin? Can't you just take a pill for that? And I'm like, I'm okay with sticking myself. I mean, it's, I'm used to putting it in my stomach or the fatty part of your leg. Yeah. And, but my doctor did mention metformin since I am a type 2, but I told him I wanted to work on my nutrition a little more. I'm still researching metformin. There's some people love it. Some people are like, long-term effects. I was on brand name Januvia for a little while to bring my blood sugars down. I'm hyperglycemic, so my blood sugar goes up and stays up. And I tried Januvia for a while, and it did great. I had some lows on it because what it does is it pumps your pancreas to shoot out more insulin. But the more insulin resistant you are, the more you'll need. So I thought long term, if I'm going to be diabetic another 40, 50 years, and my mom's been diabetic, 65 years, I don't want something constantly taxing my body even more.
Right.
So again, I'm my own science experiment. Everyone needs to do their own thing.
Yes.
But I'm a big proponent of protein, eating clean protein. And, back to my mom, who's almost 80, I've got her taking collagen. And I gave her some protein powder because she's down to like 110 pounds now at 5'1". Yeah, she's 5'1" now. Probably lost an inch.
Yeah, you do shrink a little bit when you get older.
The other thing I'd like to mention about that age group too is, like my mom lost a lot of weight. The doctor did not decrease her medications. So she had started falling more often, like where she was hurting herself. Her skin is almost transparent. If she puts a normal Band-Aid on, she'll rip her skin off. So, I had to talk to the doctor and just say, tell me more about why my mom is on these. Do you realize she's only 110? She's not 125 anymore. So I worked with the doctor and I talked to him. All of these symptoms or all of the medications for preventative. Since she's been diabetic so long, we've got a 50% more chance of a heart attack. So you got to keep the cholesterol and the blood pressure and all these things under control. But as she got older, she needed an advocate for her. And her generation grew up, whatever the doctor says, I'm going to do.
Yep.
And she does it. And I'll say, Mom, why don't you take this collagen? She goes, well, let me talk to the doctor. I said, I'll do it, Mom. So I get online. I've got all of her medical portals online because she doesn't do that. And I asked the doctor about collagen, and he said, I don't know anything about that. One sentence. I'm like, doesn't that tell you something?
Yeah, they're just not dialed in to the prevention part. It's just not part of their training.
Right. It's not their fault. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
It's not, nutrition is not part of the solution.
Yes.
So I'm trying to advocate for.
No, I totally agree with you. I like online Dr. Peter Attias.
Yes.
Because he basically said it's up to us to learn and be our own advocate. And it's like, yes, it's right. I mean, your body's different than the person, your best friend, whatever it is. Everybody's different and everybody assimilates differently. So you can't say that this is a cookie cutter approach to every single person because it doesn't work that way. Everybody has to really look into their health. And I think that's to your point about your mom. Same here with mine. Mine's 94. So,
cool.
My sister's a nurse, so she helps with it. But there still is, and feigning and falling is just part of it. You're not getting proper hydration. What you eat affects your gut, affects your brain. All these things are coming out, and like Attias said, it's like health 3.0. And it's really up to you to go on your own journey and ask the questions, find out what you can, because there's a lot of podcasts out there on health. And, you don't say one and you've got all the answers. You listen to opposing views. You said something at the beginning. I wanted to go back because when people listen, like they were recommending that one nutrition, your belief system changes every day. Mine changes every single day because I have a preconceived idea of something, and I have somebody like you on, and you're going, well, this is the way I did it. And I'm going, dang, I never thought about that. And it helps you to kind of break belief systems and get better knowledge of what you want to dig into, because we're all on our own personal journey.
Right.
Everybody's on it, and it's up to you to take responsibility to not say, Doc, hey, this is what do I do? I mean, they only know what they know, and they're not sitting there like yourself that interested in that journey because they got so many patients they're seeing.
Yeah.
It's a busy profession.
Yeah.
So what would you say? Because I love your approach to health and I want to dig into it more, but I want to respect your time because when I look at that backdrop, I'm like, I want to dive into that lake or
we're on a canal.
How many? It's up a couple floors, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So that would be a high dive for me. I have a pool out here, but I'd have to dive out a few feet to get the pool. Yeah. But anyway, so I want to give this is for our Kennesaw people because we're doing this and maybe you can even contact your friends. So Ken Kington's a comedian and we want to get the adult children with their aging parents to laugh. Come together,
awesome,
have a date, and just kind of have fun with mom and dad, and also meet our vendors because those stages of life happen faster than we want to believe. And you have to know what vendors can help you. You're all on your own personal journey. What you don't know, you don't know. But if you are aware of, just like you said, you're aware of these things that are out there, it can help your health. And so we want to educate our adult children to what options are available for their parents. So they can say, hey, mom, this is something I'm aware of that might help you. So we're gonna bring the vendors together, and that is the 22nd of May from 6 to 7:30. So 6 to 7, we have 2 comedians. One's a senior, and the other's a rising star. And then Ken's been doing it for 30 years. So we're happening at Grace Church, which is right up near the mall. But we'll do 6 to 7 with 2 comedians. We'll take a break. You can go out, have some hors d'oeuvres, healthy hors d'oeuvres.
That's another thing. That's another thing we can talk about.
Yes, I want to dig into it much more.
Party going. Yeah.
Yes, because you have to. I mean, you go to parties, you can't just cut loose and have anything. Yeah. You got to be smart about things because fuel in the body is like fuel in your car. You wouldn't put water in your car. You don't need to put other stuff in your body because you're not going to run at efficiency. Right. But we'll go back. But come, tickets are $15. I don't think if you want to come up here and see your daughter, you guys can go to the event. So it's May 22nd. We're going to have health people there. We have our first resource book that's coming out. And this book has all our vendors in there with their podcasts. So you can hear their story, find out about them, dig in a little deeper to what journey you're on personally. And if you look at this QR code, if you scan this QR code, it's 46 minutes of gut-wrenching comedy. Okay. You will laugh until your stomach hurts. And it is just, it's him at Air Bar up in Salt Lake City. And Ken is he's hilarious. So
I'm going to check him out after this. Yeah. And laughter really is so important.
Yes. Totally agree. Yes. So that's our commercial break. Okay. So Kristina. All right. So let me go back to a little thing here. I want you to tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, there you go. I have an email address there, McInerny@gmail.com, which is just my private email. I have there's a website I'm blogging on, harvestinghealthandhappiness.com. It belongs to someone else. Okay. But I decided I wanted to kind of get out of that arena of website development. Did it for 20 plus years.
Time for a break.
And then Healthy Diabetes, Healthy HDM, Healthy Diabetes Management on Facebook.
Well, we're going to have you back. We're going to dig deeper into your diabetes journey with your mom and yourself, because I'm in a place I hear it all the time. So, I think people want to know, what are their options? What can they do to make sure that when they get later in life, they're living a quality life? Because your health, we only get one body. We don't get to return it in and get a new one. There's no bionic man, woman, whatever, to be able to replace. You can replace knees and hips and all that, but you still have to have the body working.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I joined Optavia too is it's not a diet.
Right.
If you do a diet, what happens when you're done with that diet?
Yeah.
It's all about lifestyle changes, and it's just tiny changes, and then you'll get another tiny change and another tiny change. Just like when you know, in life, you learn a little bit, you learn a little more, you learn a little more. It's just a growth pattern that you have to get your mindset to. I can tell you know.
No, we're gonna have. I'll get my agent to talk to your agent, and we'll work out something where we can get you on more often, because we know just, when you transition into you are a detailed and goal-oriented person. Most people aren't that way, but you have had a discovery of things because you are that way, which makes it really helpful for our viewers to have somebody that's done the digging and that can answer questions. So I'd love to have you back and really dig further into it. And we'll do it to where I can just look at your backdrop there and just dream.
I know, right?
Yes. Okay. So if you want to get tickets, I think it's live today, meetup, but people can go to podcasterpetecane.com and you'll see. No, actually, I haven't put that link. It's a link tree. So I'll put that link up today. But call me if you're interested in being like a vendor for our event. We're going to have vendors, about a dozen vendors there. And then we'll have our first book there, which will be a good resource book for our community. Yeah. So, Kristina, thank you so much for, 1, your information, 2, for showing up with a backdrop that absolutely, I see so many fake ones. When I see a real one, I love it. Look at that. Holy mackerel.
Yeah, that's our electric boat out there.
Dang. Oh, gosh. So do your hard work, and you can be down in Florida in a nice remote place, enjoying the latter part, or I call it the retirement years.
Right.
So thank you, Kristina. We appreciate you being a guest on our podcast.
All right. Thank you. Bye.